Hey, Cris.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Where are you from?
Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Mhm.
Is that where you were raised?
Yep.
I have no inkling of a clue of what the music scene is like in Baltimore.
The music scene in Baltimore, there's a lot of musicians, a lot of artists. It flies under the radar in a lot of cases, but you know, Frank Zappa's from Baltimore, John Waters is from Baltimore, Beach House, who else? Probably forgetting some other big names, but you know, the people rise out of there. It's not exactly where everybody's going to look for the next best thing, but there's a lot of people there doing their thing really well there.
Sure. Were you raised listening to music that was kind of rooted in the Baltimore scene, or were you exposed to stuff outside of that?
I was exposed to everything. I mean, my parents were huge music fans. They had a great music collection, huge Deadheads and hippies, and you know, turned me on to all that good stuff. Took me to my first Grateful Dead show when I was 15.
No way. What was that like?
Well, it sort of blew the doors open for me as far as, you know, my life trajectory. I feel like it was. I had just started playing guitar, and I was like, wow, this is cool. This seems like something fun to do. And it was sort of the spark that made me kind of detour off of the just straight and narrow, you know, normal suburban kid path to really trying to become a musician.
Sure. You said no more of the Journey licks. We're going jam band way.
Well, kinda. It was just more like, you know, I went from, you know, being into sports and the normal stuff to like, you know, practicing guitar all day long and really dedicating my life to wanting to do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Were there any artists besides Grateful Dead that you thought had like a big inspiration in your foundation?
Definitely. Well, I mean, that was sort of like my teenage spark, but then I went down the rabbit hole of like all the things that, as I learned about the music that they were influenced by, and so it opened the door to all the American roots music that was really permeating through all their stuff, and Doc Watson, Tony Rice, Norman Blake, all the bluegrass, and then Delta blues stuff, Robert Johnson, Son House, Leadbelly, Muddy Waters, and it just kind of kept spiraling. It's like, and it's all connected. And then I got real into New Orleans music, and you know, so, and it's just all one big tree that's connected somewhere. But that was sort of like the initial spark that I kind of chase down. Who did they listen to? Who did they listen to? Who did they listen to? And just, you know, it's endless.
Totally.
Yeah.
You told me that today you have you have 2 more gigs today. It was wild. One of them full band. Yeah. One of them solo. Do you have a preference?
No, I mean, it depends on the gig, really. You know, if it's I love playing with my band. I love playing with other musicians, but there's something great about playing a solo gig in the right setting too. If there's people that are listening and coming for that, and and you know, I think the power of a solo performance can be just as much as a band performance in the right setting. Obviously, if it's a loud, rowdy crowd that wants to dance, the solo thing doesn't work quite as well. But yeah, this will be like a listening songwriter in the round thing, which is always really fun to do.
What's one of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome between that 15-year-old self and where you are now?
Well, you know, making a living as a musician is certainly a journey. So I'd say that in a general sense. And then along the way, there's many specific things I could point to, you know, as your life changes and as your responsibilities change and your overhead changes. And, you know, so for me, it's just been to keep evolving, not only the craft, but the perspective and the goals, and just to keep improving in the midst of a sometimes challenging environment.
Totally.
And to keep believing in myself, and to keep, you know, trying to develop the art and be authentic in this business.
I can tell by the way you play and perform, and by the way that you speak about the people that you grew up with, that you have a great respect for the craft, which this has been maybe a more personal exploration for me. I live in LA right now, and I feel like there is such a focus on aesthetic and marketability.
Yeah.
And it oftentimes seems to eclipse the craft.
Yeah.
And I don't know, could you speak to that at all?
Yeah, well, I think they're two separate things. I think there's art and there's entertainment and business and marketing. Both are equally important if you're trying to make a living doing it, but you know, just being an artist doesn't always mean, you know, you could be the best artist ever, but it doesn't mean that you'll be successful in the market. So, you know, there's people that strictly focus on the marketability and the commercialization and being an entertainer, so to speak, where you're selling this product, and you know, and then there's people who are just strictly intrinsically driven by the creativity and the art. And I try to strike, you know, a balance. I think, you know, being that I do need to make a living at this, there's certainly, you have to keep both in mind, but I try not to lose. I definitely lean more towards the art side.
Sure.
And, you know, let other people maybe help me with the other stuff.
That's where you got help. Yeah. No, that's good. Did you have a moment when you were like, oh, I can really do this? I can actually support myself, support my family with music?
I'm still waiting for it. I mean, I'm still doing, I haven't had a day job in 20 years. So, you know, so, I mean, along the way, I've sort of like stopped and been like, wow, I'm doing this. You know,
totally.
It always feels like it's hanging on by a thread and I'm never quite where I want to be, but I think that's just life anyway.
I think that's real.
Come to understand that and you know, just keep going.
I love that you said a day job. I think it's so funny that so many of us artists say, oh, I could never do a 9 to 5, so instead I'll do a 24/7.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, you know, it just never ends.
Yeah, that's true. But if you love it, that's what they say. It's not work. Right?
Yeah, right. That's what they say.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah. Still working on believing. What would a 15-year-old you at the first Grateful Dead concert, what would he think about where you are now?
I think he would think that it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot, how like your perspective when you're younger and what you think you want to do, if you were to look at yourself now, you'd be like, wow, you did it. But like, you know, in the present moment, you're like, wow, I need to be doing this. There's always that carrot dangling. I think for everybody, not just me, just in whatever you're doing, there's always like this like yearning to like be better and do better. So, but yeah, I think 15-year-old me would be pretty satisfied with the fact that I've managed to make a living writing songs and playing guitar. You know,
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just like imagine like the 15-year-olds that watch you now.
Yeah.
And they're like, and they're going through the same thing that you went through then.
Yeah.
You know?
And I did get to play with Phil Lesh from the Grateful Dead and like bring my dad who brought me to my first show.
What?
So like, you know, moments
chills.
like that, yeah, it was sort of like a full circle moment of like feeling like everything was lined up.
Yeah, that gave me full body chills.
Yeah,
That's so nice.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Cris, you're awesome. Thank you
man.
so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck with the rest of your day.
Thank you.
It's wild.
Try to go get a nap.
Yeah, I'll end with this, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
That was great.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey stunning people, if you're loving our music, make sure to give us a like and a subscribe, and comment below who you want to see next.